What if I told you there were some editing techniques and special effects that some brewing channels use in order to make things look fresh and delicious and refreshing? And what if I told you I'm going to expose about a dozen of those techniques on this episode of Doing the Most?
Homemade brews and various how-tos, everything from mead to roast, bake creation, fermentation, inebriation, doing the most.
Now, I don't use a lot of these. I might use a couple of them, but these are things that I've seen other channels do, and a couple of things, again, that I may be guilty of doing myself. And none of this is nefarious. I don't want to lead with that as my thesis. All of these things are intended, I hope, to make you feel comfortable with your homebrewing process and to help you visualize an incredible product that you too can create. Some are, I guess, slightly dishonest, and others are just intended to improve the viewing experience. And these fall into a few different camps. Some of these techniques are for carbonated drinks, some are for still drinks, some are used for just like editing to improve the viewer experience, as well as a couple other things. But real quick, this episode does have a sponsor. This episode is sponsored by London Sunshine. I recently got a chance to check out their ice machine. It makes ice in 9 minutes and up to 26 pounds of ice per day. The exterior is made with polished industrial grade stainless steel, and the ice lattice is nickel plated, which provides strong corrosion resistance. It's super easy to use. You just add water to the basin at the bottom, and within 9 minutes, bullet ice starts coming out the top and it catches in the basket. Our kiddo loves using this ice maker, and of course, it's great ice for cocktails and great ice for munchin'. My only real complaint with this thing is it's kind of loud. Check out the information in the description for how you can pick up one of these ice makers for yourself. No more stalling, let's jump right in. First off, there's the opening of a carbonated drink while it is warm. The advantage here is that when you pour it, it looks really impressively effervescent, but all of that is gonna gas off really quick because CO2 holds in suspension better in cold liquids. But for camera purposes, it's better to pour a carbonated drink warm because it looks more impressive. I do this one all the time. Another trick that provides a pretty cool effect on video is pouring hard and recording in slow motion. You'll see this on quite a few channels, but if you pour really hard, like an intense pour from high up, so there's lots of splashing, it helps create a head on top of that carbonated drink, and it looks more impressive. Shooting it in slow motion gives you that same kind of feeling when you see soda being poured in like a McDonald's commercial. You see it kind of filling up and the head kind of pours over the top of the glass. It's very enticing. So you get a nice hard pour going, you shoot that at a pretty high frame rate, and then you can slow it down just enough until you get that perfect visual effect. Next up, this is one I don't do, dish soap. And I'm telling you, once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. So what happens is the brewtuber will put a drop of dish soap in the bottom of the glass and maybe a little bit of water to kind of mix it around. And then when you pour a carbonated drink on top of that, it mixes instantly with the soap to create a nice big foam, which if done just right, can create a really impressive head on a beer or a mead or a cider. But if done at all wrong, it's very obvious because the bubble structure isn't right. It kind of stacks up on itself. And if the light hits it just right, you can see that kind of oil slick sheen, that rainbow kind of splash on the bubbles. Total dead giveaway. There is a better way to do this. However, it doesn't create as impressive of a head. What it does is kind of elongate the duration that the head sits on the glass. And that's to put a couple drops of glycerin in the glass and pour on top of that. Glycerin is a natural substance. I think mine comes from vegetables. And it's basically just kind of a viscosity amendment that you can add to kind of anything. A lot of people will put it in home distilled liquor to kind of smooth and sweeten it out. Sometimes it's called wine finisher, and it's used in oftentimes younger wines to kind of give it a more solidified, cohesive mouthfeel. But glycerin can kind of just help keep the head on top of something like a cider or a sparkling mead, so that way, as a brew tuber, you can get extra shots of it, so you're not having to pour and pour and pour to get that shot with that foam on top. Just a little bit of glycerin kind of extends your ability to get those perfect shots for your B-roll. And to that point, another trick that we use is multiple pours. And you definitely see this in BrewTuber B-roll, where you see them pouring and then there's a quick cut, and then they're still pouring and there's another cut and they're still pouring. A lot of times we're waiting for the head to kind of fall back down so we can keep pouring and keep getting that shot. It gives you a moment to move the camera to get a different angle. And sometimes I'll do this over the course of several days. Like I'll shoot my B-roll, I go to edit, I don't love it, so I'll shoot it again. Maybe I want a different shot in there, so I might even shoot it again. Sometimes I can go through 3 or 4 bottles of something for a recipe, just shooting B-roll, and a lot of that doesn't even get drank because it's sitting out, and I'm taking video of it, I'm taking photos of it, I'm editing, I'm coming back. And so multiple pours is a great hack to get those perfect shots. However, unless you're really thirsty, some of that stuff is going to go to waste. So there's a couple of neat tricks that brewtubers use in order to enhance the color of their drinks. The times that I have done this is to try and make it look on video how it looks in real life. And sometimes that's hard to catch with getting the lighting just right, or getting the angle just right, or catching reflections off of something else in the room. So there are 2 ways that I am guilty of cheating a little bit to get on video what I see in person. And the first one is to use color film. This one is really hard to spot. I know that it happens because I do it, and I have seen other photographers use film or other reflective surfaces to create this effect in imagery. But basically what I do, if like, say I've got something that's a red, like a cherry mead, I might hold a piece of red film off camera to reflect on the glass and enhance the color of that. And that helps me when I'm color grading or adjusting coloring on video to have it closer to what it looks like in real life when the video gets into the computer. So I'm having to do less post-production processing on that video to adjust the color so it looks how I see it. Another thing that we'll do every now and then is dilute a pour. And so that's pouring something from a glass, which may appear really dark on video due to external conditions, but pouring a little bit and then pouring some water in there to kind of thin it out so you get more light penetrating through the glass can help improve how the color looks on video. I've done that one a few times too. And so that moves us on to editing tricks that brewtubers sometimes will use. One really easy trick that I've seen a number of times and seems to be catching on is moving the lighting in the room around the drink when you're taking video of it. For example, you might have a beautiful shot of something in your B-roll and it looks great, but there's no movement. You know, there's no sparkle coming up in the glass, there's no head dissipating on top, it's just a still image. But you can dress that up just by taking a light source, kind of moving it around, maybe shooting the video in slow motion so you get more of a kind of dramatic effect. And I've used that one quite a few times. If you look back on old videos, you'll probably spot it here and there. But you know, you got something that's not visually interesting, make the room around it visually interesting. Another thing I am very guilty of is showing you video of staggered brew cycles. I may brew a recipe 5, 6, 7 times. And sometimes when I'm editing the video for you to see, you're seeing primary from batch 3 and secondary from batch 2 and finishing from batch 6. And then whatever I'm tasting is the final version of the thing. But I try and record when it's best to record, and I try to use clips that are best demonstrating what I want you to get out of my video. And so sometimes that means borrowing from different brew cycles, not necessarily showing one brew beginning to end, if that makes sense. Another thing I don't do, because I don't really use flip tops, but I know that some brewtubers do, is open flip tops off camera. And that's because a lot of times it can be a little unpredictable, especially if you're doing a warm pour to try and demonstrate carbonation. And so opening them off camera just to make sure you don't have an explosion when you open it on camera for the viewer is a little bit of an insurance policy. And you can spot this one when you barely hear any hiss coming out of the bottle when somebody opens it, but then they pour it and it's still incredibly carbonated. I mean, this one has been going for about a week now. And if I were to open this on camera without doing an insurance policy first, I might be at risk of an explosion. Fortunately not here, but you know, it's not really cheating so much as it's giving you insurance that you're not going to record something catastrophic and have to reset your whole studio space before you start recording again. This next one I've seen a few times, and there are a couple channels that do it a lot, so keep an eye out for it. You'll notice it now that I've mentioned it, and that is topping up the headspace and secondary off camera. So how this one works is the brewtuber will be racking from one container to the next, and they're the same size container. And they'll start racking it, you know, start transferring it over, and then there's a cut to it being done and the airlock's already on. And the headspace is still relatively the same. It didn't really change even though you left a bunch of lees in the bottom of the previous jug. And I understand this one. It's because headspace in secondary is bad. It's a contributor to oxidization, so you don't want to demonstrate a lot of headspace in secondary on camera. However, the deception lies in doing that off camera and not disclosing that to the viewer that that has happened. And a lot of new brewers aren't going to be trained to see that difference, but when they rack to secondary, there will be a dramatic difference and they will be more susceptible to oxidization because it wasn't disclosed to them that they might need to fill that headspace. Another thing that you'll see more and more on BrewTube is the use of canned B-roll. This includes services like Storyblocks or Envato, where you can go and download royalty-free clips that you can use in your videos. I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with this. It does definitely class up a video and make it look like more of a professional production, like something, you know, the news would do as a news piece where they cut in like, you know, clips of people walking through the mall or somebody slinging a purse over their shoulder. And you'll see this more and more because these services are becoming more competitive and I think easier for folks to access. And because there are several brewtubers now doing that, I think a lot of other people are going to start coming on board with it. I like to shoot my own B-roll because I have fun trying to capture those shots, but I also understand that sometimes there are shots that are going to be really difficult to capture, but also really add to the story that you're trying to tell through your BrewTube video. And finally, overly edited thumbnails. This one frustrates me to no end because I really like to try and demonstrate in my thumbnail what you're about to see in the video. I try to avoid clickbaity stuff or overly edited stuff. And sometimes in BrewTube thumbnails, it's just absurd. Like the video title will be like, how to make blue cider. And then, you know, they're holding up a glass and it's bright blue, you know, Kool-Aid colored cider. And it's got this big head on it and it's like Technicolor, and you know, you look at the thumbnail like, oh, how do you make that? Never would you speculate that the end product is not actually going to be neon blue, right? Because why would they put that in the thumbnail? But then you watch the video, you get to the end of it, maybe it's a 2 or 3 part thing, you finally get to the end of it, and it was never what you expected from that original thumbnail, but now you've spent all this time watching the video, you kind of forgot about it. And so it's just like what YouTube is now, I guess. It's a thumbnail game because we're all fighting for your attention. But I just don't feel like it's right to create clickbaity thumbnails that don't communicate honestly to the viewer what they're about to experience in the video. Just feels wrong to me. I hope you enjoyed this video, this little look behind the scenes of BrewTube. I hope you're like more eagle-eyed now when you watch BrewTube videos. If you see one where you think I have done one of these tricks in the video, drop a comment in there and let me know. I hope demonstrating these for you in this video was enlightening a little bit. Again, I don't think anyone's trying to be too deceptive, but I do think that there's kind of a scramble on to try and lock in viewership especially as BrewTube content seems to be seeing a slowdown in viewership on YouTube. It is what it is. It's the beast we all signed up for. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button down there and ring that notification bell so you get notifications about all of our upcoming content. And maybe you should start a BrewTube channel. Until next time, happy brewing. Cheers.